This is the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening, all. I'm Shashina Roll. As always, it is so great to have you with us. Topping news: police in Grand Bahama, along with Civil Aviation Authority, are investigating the circumstance that led to an aircraft incident at the Grand Bahama International Airport yesterday. The local air carrier apparently ended up in bushes after it attempted to land. As Kimberly Mullings reports, all on board escaped serious injuries.
A Tuesday afternoon accident leaving nearly 36 passengers shaken here at the airport. Upon arriving to the Western Air Terminal, ZNS News learned that an aircraft en route to Nassau from Bimini had stopped in Freeport for passengers who were delayed from 1 p.m. The plane departed at approximately 5:15 p.m. with over 30 passengers on board. Shortly after, the pilot reportedly made an announcement that the plane would have to return to Freeport. The aircraft circled the airport, then attempted to land on the runway, but the left landing gear malfunctioned, causing the aircraft to veer off in nearby bushes. Theo Farquharson received a call from a friend in Bimini concerned about his wife, who was on board.
When the plane developed the problems, she called her husband. He called me, and I came out here, and then he gave me her number. I was able to speak with her, and she told me that they had some difficulty because she was on her way to Nassau.
The ambulance had to be called for an emotional 19-year-old Delon Thompson, who was seated on the left side of the aircraft, suffering obvious trauma from the incident.
When we was landing, the plane started to drift, and it started to go sideways, and it hit the floor, and the rain came up. I was terrified. All I could do was pray.
And at this point, now that you know that you're okay, and you know your mom came with her immediately.
All I can do right now is give God thanks.
Passengers Willamay Bain and her grandson Kesniel Dean were headed to Nassau. They were delayed passengers from the 1 p.m. flight.
When he turned back, the wheel wasn't coming out. He landed the plane, and the plane started swerving from side to side. Everybody was screaming, but my grandson and I, we was praying, and thank God, the pilot, he did a good job. He landed the plane safely with everyone.
As we jumped on the plane, I ended up getting caught on my leg, and sometimes my mouth was bleeding too, but okay, thank God we're alive.
Vincent Ellis was also traveling to Nassau from Bimini. He says the landing was a hard, unforgettable one.
When that landed, the left side went down, and we skated from in the back of the airport in the bush in the back there, and then they kick open the door. We kick open the door. Well, the plane ran for at least a good 200 feet before she really stopped, but everybody was in the plane shaking and trying to hold on to a seat or something like that, but she was just skating and wiggling and all that stuff. So it did. Once that stopped, then they kick open the door, and we try to get out of there as quick as we possibly can, because we could see the smoke on one side, and we thought it might explode.
Reporting from the Western Air Terminal here on Grand Bahama Island, I'm Kimberly Mullings, ZNS Network News.
Well, Western Air meeting with ZNS News today to give an update on yesterday's aviation incident and to ensure the traveling public that safety remains their #1 priority. One day after a frightening experience for passengers and officials of Western Air comes an explanation as to what happened on Flight 708 as it was departing Freeport and heading into Nassau. Vice President and General Counsel for the airline, Shirexia Roll, outlines what led to the unfortunate incident.
This particular aircraft went from Nassau to Bimini. No indication, no problem, no issue, smooth flying. The flight then went on to Bimini to Freeport. No indication, no issue, no abnormalities, nothing. Once the flight landed here in Freeport, when they had a normal takeoff, they were about 4 or 5 minutes into flight where he noticed an issue with the electrical systems and decided to contact air traffic control and make a precautionary turn to come back to the airport.
The VP of Operations says there was no crash landing, but adds that there was a gear malfunction that occurred while the pilot was preparing for a standard landing.
By the time he was preparing to make that first turn onto the taxiway, once the gear malfunctioned, he had to do an abrupt swerve. And so, of course, and then immediately it stopped afterwards. that of course would shake anybody up that's in the aircraft.
33 persons were on board, including passengers and Western Airline crew members. 4 persons had to be taken to hospital after suffering minor injuries.
We were able to evacuate them pretty quickly and pretty safely. There were I believe 4 at this point who suffered minor injuries from what we understand. We've been in communication with them. Majority of the passengers opted to get accommodated to another flight, and so the majority of the passengers flew out that night.
She says this is a tough pill for Western Air to swallow, as customer service has always been their top priority. The airline company, which is the largest privately owned airline in the Bahamas, has been in the business for some 16 years, and they stand by their commitment to safety. Roll adds that Western Air's mechanics are a crew of experienced and dedicated individuals, noting that the public can continue to feel safe using them as their airline of choice.
Our mechanics have been trained in the SAB 340 for each of them, the core lead mechanics, for over 25 years. Many of them who have been working with us for 10 to 15 years or more. And so they are incredibly thorough in regards to schedule and non-schedule maintenance. So it's unfortunate because we know that any unusual incident in the air doesn't make someone feel good.
Roll says Western Air is in the process of conducting its own investigations and adds that civil aviation is doing the same. As for the passengers who were on board during the time of the incident, she says the airline will keep in constant communication with them. In other news, the Freeport Container Port receiving new equipment that is critical to its restoration efforts. Port officials received 2 new super mobile harbor cranes as part of its post-Hurricane Matthew efforts to quickly restore full terminal operations. Now, these new harbor cranes are capable of handling large container vessels and will restore the container port's handling volume to approximately 60%. They have been commissioned and are now in operation. The transshipment terminal has sent 5 employees off to Germany for extensive training to ensure efficient service to clients and shipping lines. Switching gears now, displaced workers from the Memories Resort property taking to the streets today. The former employees protesting the closure of the hotel and the apparent lack of job opportunities on the island. This protest taking place as employees were asked to collect their severance checks. Megan Shepard has the story. The group of unemployed workers assembled Wednesday morning in front of the old CIBC building. They received instructions from the Royal Bahamas Police Force on the regulations regarding the peaceful protests in March. Former engineering assistant at the Memories Resort, Natasha Pelocano, says that aside from being made redundant, one of their main issues is that they were not shown any respect during this process.
Of course, Blue Diamond and the media heard that we can have a demonstration today. So it's so coincidental that they decide today and tomorrow to do payouts. They did that to intimidate us, but we're not going to be silenced. We have to get what is ours. Despite the fact we're getting our redundancy pay and we don't know if it's going to be correct, we need jobs. This is 487 adults with no jobs. We have kids, we have bills, obligations. So the disrespect is disgraceful.
Pelocano says that while they are now receiving their redundancy checks, it is not enough. She says that Grand Bahama is already in a bad state and long-term employment is necessary. She says since the passing of Hurricane Matthew, she and her colleagues have been in limbo. Another former employee, Tamika Marshall, is calling for more to be done. She says the situation has been rough to say the least, and their unemployment situations are affecting entire households.
We're not begging for anything. We're asking for resolution. We are not a people who wants to be lazy. We want to work. We're not asking for handout. I'm not looking for anyone to pay my rent, my mortgage, my car note. What I am looking for is sustainability.
Now as one group protests to the Harold Gregory complex, another lined up for their checks.
Well, I've been out here from 8:50 this morning and the process is really slow because they're taking like 20 to 30 minutes with one person. But they say the reason for that is because they're going through your files. I felt relief because I think it's about time they finally met with us and pay us off. But the only issue is we're trying to make sure that our pays are right.
I was excited because, I thought the hotel was actually opening back. But now when I heard that we're going to get paid, till I realized that, you know, they ain't opening right now. I think the line could have been a little more organized. I was here about 3 hours ago. I was here. And I understand that they're supposed to do it in alphabetical orders, but this don't look like it happening right now. It's just who get in.
The distribution of severance pay to the displaced employees will continue on Thursday. Megan Shepard, ZNS Network News.
In news from the crime beat, 7 Dominicans captured near a local resort in the Caraval Beach area. Reports say they were making preparatory steps to be smuggled into the United States. Now, a team of immigration officers found the 7 Dominican males hiding in nearby bushes near a canal. The men made an attempt to escape on foot but were quickly apprehended by the officers. The men claimed that they left the Dominican Republic some 5 days ago. 2 of the men had Dominican passports, none of which bore a Bahamian immigration admittance stamp. The men are expected to be flown to the capital to be detained at the detention center until repatriated to the Dominican Republic. Now, a Bahamian male was also taken into custody and is assisting immigration officials with further investigations into this matter. And 2 young men taken to court today for a string of charges, including a break-in at Solomon Supermarket on Queens Highway last week. Perry Russell, 19 of North Bahamia, and 24-year-old Tulani Lang of South Bahamia appeared before Magistrate Megan Johnson on 7 counts of shop breaking and 7 counts of stealing. Perry Russell pleaded guilty to all charges and was sentenced to 4 years and 6 months at corrections. Lang, on the other hand, pleaded not guilty, and the matter was adjourned to May for trial. Additionally, Perry Russell was also arraigned before Magistrate Megan Johnson on violation of a bail condition. He pled guilty and was sentenced to 1 year behind bars. Lang was also arraigned for possession of ammunition. He pleaded guilty and was given 3 years conditional discharge, or in default, spend a year in prison. The 2 were also taken before Magistrate Debbie Ferguson, 1 count of willful damage, 7 counts of shop breaking, and 7 counts of stealing. Perry Russell pleaded guilty to all charges and was sentenced to 21 months behind bars and ordered to pay over $7,000 in compensation. Failure to do so would result in Russell serving 48 months in prison. Tulani Lang pleaded not guilty to all matters. He was remanded to prison until May of this year. That is when a trial is expected to begin. Stay with us. There's more news right after this.